that's a clown I painted, so you know I'm truly insane.
Despite being two of the longest-running cartoons and airing on the same network, Family Guy and The Simpsons have long been seen as competitors and enemies in the world of adult animation. And this isn't just from fans debating about which show is better, it comes from the shows themselves. Over the years, we've seen The Simpsons diss Family Guy and The Family Guy diss The Simpsons. No matter which one you're a true fan of, you have to admit a lot of these insults were extremely funny, so we gathered them all here for you today. By the time we end, you can make the final decision who had the best disses. And don't forget to comment on which show you like better. Every season of Family Guy leaves a whole lot of content on the cutting room floor. Thankfully, the show is able to pick up that cut content and save it exclusively for the DVD release, Blu-ray, or for online access. This is the case with the cut Stewie song entitled, "I've Got a Little List." In the song, Stewie goes through a list of people who annoy the crap out of him. Stewie goes into a rant about a guy who still laughs at The Simpsons all the time, even showcasing him in the same Bart Simpson t-shirt he wore when he was younger. Ironically, after 17 seasons, people are starting to say the same thing about Family Guy as well. The disses between The Simpsons and Family Guy can date back over a decade. Instead of having someone like Homer or Bart deliver the insult to the residents of Quahog, the show relied on special guest voice actor Betty White. In a telethon based off the way PBS always asks for pledges, Betty White represents Fox Network. With a Family Guy logo in the background, Betty pleads for pledges to help keep crude programming on the air. We see what you did there, Simpsons. Shots fired just 1 year after Family Guy debuted. When The Simpsons first premiered, it became a cultural phenomenon. It felt like the show was everywhere, and even drew the attention of First Lady Barbara Bush. Along with the political attention, The Simpsons merchandise machine churned like crazy. Family Guy targeted this aspect of the show in the episode, Mother Trucker. When Brian accuses Stewie of selling out, we get a quick jump cut to Stewie sitting on a park bench using Bart Simpson's classic Butterfinger slogan, "You better not lay a finger on my Butterfinger." And Stewie selling out is definitely a dig at The Simpsons, who continue to fill store shelves with products today, including Funko Pops, board games like The Simpsons Clue, and food products like a Duff energy drink. Over the years, the battles between Sideshow Bob and Bart Simpson never seemed to get old, much like Stewie plotting to attack Lois or face off against an evil turtle. Well, the journey between Sideshow Bob and Bart continued in the episode The Italian Bob. In a quick cutaway gag, we watch as two officers flip through a book of criminals. After seeing some usual suspects like Snake, one of the pages is Peter Griffin, with the crime listed as plagiarismo. Yeah, so basically The Simpsons is accusing Family Guy of plagiarizing them. A dim-witted husband has a family which includes 2 older kids and a baby. Of course, things are very different when broken down, especially if you compare neighbors like Ned Flanders and Quagmire. The funny gag definitely takes a shot at Family Guy living off of The Simpsons' success. Meanwhile, the gang over at South Park are just chomping on some popcorn and enjoying the show. While some of these disses may be more subtle than others, Family Guy held nothing back one time, so much so that The Simpsons demanded the scene be cut from broadcast, and Fox obliged. Thanks to special releases and deleted scenes, we got to see the disturbing scene in all its glory. As the Griffin family talks on screen, a fake advert appears in the bottom third with an innocent Marge Simpson waving. Then all of a sudden, Quagmire appears, takes advantage of Marge, forces her down, and they disappear off screen. A few moments later, we cut to the exterior of the Simpsons household. Gunshots are fired and Homer and Marge meet their demise. Quagmire continues his rampage. This was more of some really dark humor than a diss, but the point was to try and end the Simpsons from being on the air in a way only Quagmire knew how. The Treehouse of Horror episodes of The Simpsons pretty much gives the showrunners free rein to do whatever they want and get creative with characters. This is where we've seen transformations and mutations and multiple characters meet their demise. The 13th Treehouse of Horror features the short Send in the Clones, where Homer learns how to clone himself. In a crazy moment, we see dozens and dozens of Homer clones on the screen, but there's one who stands out a lot more than the others, and it's because it's Family Guy's Peter Griffin. In a very similar way the Plagiarismo diss played into the character, the show is essentially saying Peter Griffin is nothing but a Homer clone, and they aren't too far off. The moment was not only a funny diss towards Family Guy, but a great Easter egg, which the Treehouse of Horror episodes have been known for over the years. When Peter and his buddies get sent to court for a crime, they're hoping for a fair trial and no jail time. Well, this is Family Guy, so this wasn't the case. Once we find out who the jury was, we see exactly why. At first, Peter is awfully excited that he has a jury of his peers to help make the decision. Then the camera pans over to an angry group of Springfield citizens, including Moe, Homer, and Krusty the Clown, among others. That's when Joe realizes they don't see themselves as their peers, and we cut back to the characters serving some hard time. Well, because The Simpsons came first, it's only natural to view the characters and legacy of the show on a pedestal that makes them hard to compare. 30 seasons in, and The Simpsons are still holding grudges against other shows, always taking opportunities to take a dig here and there. Take, for example, the holiday episode "'Tis the 30th Season. After Marge gets overstressed during the holidays, Homer books a cheap vacation to Florida, which is anything but glamorous. At one point, Bart and Lisa go to complain to the hotel manager about the condition of the place, and she compares it to Disney World, bringing up the Fox purchase and the fact that they are already planning to build a Family Guy world. We're treated to a funny cutaway gag, mocking everything Family Guy, even Seth MacFarlane's side hustle crooning like Frank Sinatra. Disney would never put anything like Family Guy inside their family parks, and the gag worked on multiple levels. Family Guy stories are able to jump from one crazy scenario to the next. Take, for example, the episode where Stewie invades Osama bin Laden's secret hideout and rides his tricycle all the way back to Quahog. Along the way, he rides through many pop culture scenes, including the creepy twins from The Shining and a level of the classic video game Doom. The kicker, though, comes at the end, when Stewie chases Homer Simpson down, much like how Marge's car chases him down during the opening credits of The Simpsons, only this time, Homer doesn't burst through the door, he runs right into it, knocking himself out and causing enough commotion to cause Peter to come out. As Homer goes to a streaming company to find out the truth about streaming subscriptions, the show manages to take a funny dig at Family Guy along the way. Homer learns that the TV streaming companies only make people aware that the programs exist, but don't actually produce them. One of their prime examples is the USA Network with shows like Royal Pains and Suits. But on the big board of televisions behind the evil genius, you can see the Family Guy logo lingering in the background. Basically, it's saying that people assume Family Guy is on the air, but no one really watches it and just knows it's there. In the world of cartoons featuring a nuclear family living in a small town, there's only so many storylines that you can go through. Many shows have dealt with the problems of The Simpsons already did it, with Family Guy being one of them. In the episode Ratings Guy, Peter gets access to dozens of Nielsen ratings boxes and manipulates the ratings for some of his favorite shows. When shows he likes gets canceled, Peter must show up at the TV network to try and fix things. Well, just moments after Peter arrives, so does Homer Simpson, practically saying the same thing as Peter. Peter gets cut off, proclaiming this is one plot that they got to first. Fun fact, Dan Castellaneta, the real voice of Homer Simpson, actually voiced Homer for this cameo. After 30 seasons, Bart Simpson is still a simple boy who seems to still believe in cooties, despite having his fair share of crushes and girlfriends over the years. One of his crushes appears in the episode The Wandering Juvie. Gena meets Bart at a juvenile detention center. While they get along great, eventually they both come to blows when Bart discovers she doesn't have a family and she lashes out at him. During their fight, several insults are hurled at each other, including Gena calling Bart a family guy. On the surface, it may seem like an innocent line about Bart actually having a family, but the second layer insults him for being confused with the other show. Peter has gone through all types of physical problems and ailments over the years, including the time that he had kidney disease. While hanging out at the bar with Joanne Quagmire, Peter falls ill and his skin turns completely yellow in a similar fashion to all of our favorite Springfield residents. When Joe asks Peter if he's okay, Peter simply replies that he's good and could go on like this for another 20 years. He's clearly poking fun at The Simpsons' longevity over the years, as the show is constantly getting renewed. After the success of Family Guy in syndication, they should be around for quite a long time as well. Back in the early 1990s, The actions of Bart Simpson and his classmates like Nelson seemed rebellious and out of line, while Stewie easily puts them all to shame, and we see just how different the world of Family Guy is when Stewie interacts with Nelson in the Simpsons and Family Guy crossover episode. After Nelson punches Bart in the gut, Stewie decides to get some revenge. Stewie shows his true power and just how easily he could overtake anyone in Springfield. Yeah, it's a far cry from the typical ha Nelson is used to delivering. The scene has a lot of fun moments and basically is an underlying statement of how tame The Simpsons is when compared to Family Guy. In the episode Family Guy Through the Years, Peter Griffin introduces us to a fake history of the show, acting as if it aired throughout several different periods of television. Well, you can't really talk about television and animation history without mentioning The Simpsons. So Peter gets a small dig at the show during his introduction. When Peter discusses Sundays, he mentions it meaning God, football, and Family Guy. And then he takes a dig, mentioning it also means The Simpsons to a lesser degree. While he downplays The Simpsons' role in Sunday nights, he just cannot ignore what an impact that night has had for television programming. Once getting moved to Sunday nights, The Simpsons changed the game and helped pave the way for Fox's animation domination. Along with Family Guy, other shows like King of the Hill and American Dad found success on the evening. Why do Homer and Peter need to insult each other on each other's shows when they can do the honors on the screen at the same time? This is exactly what we get to see during Homer and Peter's epic fight during the Family Guy crossover event. Peter and Homer get along great at first, until Peter says exactly what's on his mind and on the minds of many viewers. At first, he loved Homer and everything Springfield, and then after some time, he realizes now that the Simpsons suck. Homer takes the insult head on, and the two begin a long brawl through the whole town. It's pretty sad that some of the worst insults towards The Simpsons come from the mind of a small toddler. In this case, we are talking about Stewie, who goes on a big rant when his babysitter brings her boyfriend over. Stewie has a huge crush on his babysitter and starts fuming when the guy shows up. He insults his clothes, his hat, and the fact that he watches The Simpsons and knows all the lyrics to Mr. Plow by heart. So not only is Stewie making fun of the show, but the fandom behind it. And if you're someone who just started singing the Mr. Plow jingle, well, you're definitely one of the fans that Stewie was targeting. To celebrate 25 seasons on the air, The Simpsons planned something pretty special for their end credit sequence in the season premiere episode entitled Homerland. With a 25th anniversary banner hanging in the background, Homer simply tries to get his iconic couch, but red ropes and security guards prevent him from getting there. That's when we see characters from Family Guy, Bob's Burgers, and American Dad, among others, arrive and take up the couch space. While it looks like Homer is the gag of the joke, it's actually all of these characters. They are literally on the couch Homer built. The 25-year legacy helped pave the way for these other shows. So while they may occupy that space now, Homer will have the last laugh and live on forever. Bart Simpson was considered a hardcore rebel back in the 90s. His catchphrase, "Don't have a cow, man," was considered the ultimate sin, and Bart was condemned by many parents for his lewd behavior. Well, during the Simpsons and Family Guy crossover, we got another dish showcasing just how far society has come, and how truly tame Bart seems these days. When Bart shows Brian and Stewie his weapons closet, Stewie gets extremely excited at the idea of comparing both of their weapon collections. Only when Bart opens his closet, there's only one weapon inside, a simple slingshot. Despite dissing Bart, Stewie wants to be just like the guy, dressing like him, performing prank calls, and learning to skateboard. Despite having a legion of fans, over 17 seasons, all types of guest stars, and great TV ratings, Family Guy often comes up short when it comes to awards season, especially at the Emmys. To help cope with this, the show pulled all of the stops in an Emmy-winning episode. Pulling from other Emmy-winning shows like Modern Family and Transparent, the Griffins try their hardest to appease Emmy voters. Before they officially kicked off their Emmy efforts, Lois comments about trying to snag an Emmy before by doing the Simpsons crossover. Basically, she insults the show for not helping them get an Emmy, even though they have a whole collection of them. And then Peter adds to the diss by going through headline after headline, focusing on The Simpsons rather than both The Simpsons and Family Guy crossing over together. The truth is that while voiceover actors like Seth MacFarlane and Alex Borstein have won for their performances, the show has never been able to snag the coveted Emmy for Outstanding Animated Program, something The Simpsons have won 10 times. Other shows like Bob's Burgers and South Park have also won the Emmy in this category. And the feud lives on. Who had the best diss? Any great ones that we missed? Should there be another crossover between the two shows? Let us know in the comments. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Screen Rant for more great content. Thanks for watching.